The last time the Nuggets lost a game on their home floor was March 29th against the Timberwolves. That was until the Wolves once again strolled into Denver for game 1 of the second round and repeated history. In my preview of the series, I said that the biggest X factor could end up being whether or not Cat can stay out of foul trouble, so naturally he picked up a foul 2 seconds into the game. Something I wasn't expecting though was for the Wolves to put Ant on Jamal. McDaniels on Porter pretty much solves that issue, and Edwards is a true hound on the ball. As a result, Jamal really struggled to open this game, scoring 0 points in the first half for the first time in his playoff career. To make things even tougher, a few minutes in, the Wolves switched that matchup to McDaniels, not letting him get comfortable, and even if he's able to get into the defense on a drive, there's still Rudy Gobert back in drop coverage. Speaking of Rudy, he was the key in not letting Jokic get comfortable. On their first possession, he picked him up in the post and did a good job of holding his ground to force a tougher look over the top. Then a few minutes later, he's matched up again, Joker tries to cut in front of him, and he probably gets away with a little grab of the jersey, but the result is a turnover. Primarily though, it was Cat who got the Jokic assignment so that Gobert can roam the floor as a rim protector, and this is super tough to deal with because Cat's quick on his feet, strong and lengthy, while Gobert just serves as a wall in front of the basket, making Jokic live in the mid-range. The amount of size and length on this defense is just absurd. Jokic is cross-matched with McDaniels and tries to take him on a drive, only for him to swipe the ball off his leg, while 2 other 7-footers were getting ready to collapse. Like I mentioned earlier, Porter was basically neutralized during this time. When it wasn't McDaniels, it was Edwards who was chasing him all over the court, and as we all know, his game is built on finding space to catch and shoot. At one point, he tried to rewrite that narrative by isolating Gobert, which turned out to be an excruciating watch as he didn't create any sort of space at all against the big man. He ends up turning it over on an errant pass, and more than 6 minutes into the game, the Nuggets have scored 4 points. As for the other side of things, it was all Anthony Edwards. He opened up the scoring with a face-up 3 from the corner, and about a minute later, he catches it on the wing, fakes the 3 to beat a closeout, then goes to a bump midi which he hits for 2 plus a foul. On this next one, he initiates from up top, Conley sets a screen to get him to switch onto Murray, and he wastes no time pulling up for yet another jumper. As soon as that outside threat is established, all of a sudden driving the ball becomes a lot easier. Here he uses his explosive first step to easily beat Gordon off the dribble, and it also opens up things for him away from the ball. When setting up action, Jamal top locks him, to which he backdoors down a wide open lane and scores off the feed from Cat. Cat's unique combination of shooting and passing from his position makes this offense so much more versatile. Here he's going to run jumbo-sized pick and roll, look away the helping Jokic before throwing a dot to Gobert down low, and in a matter of 7 minutes, they're in complete control of this game. Not for long though, because after being punched in the mouth, Denver decided to fight back. You once again have Jokic going one-on-one with Gobert, and he backs his way in close for a soft touch finish. Then a play later, Naz Reid finds himself switched on to Porter. I'm sure you can see the difference when there's no longer a super athletic wing chasing him. Anytime the Wolves found themselves switching matchups like this, the Nuggets took advantage. This time Alexander Walker has to defend Jokic in the low post, which isn't exactly ideal. Well, to be fair, there really isn't an ideal matchup for Jokic in these spots. Even against Gobert, he uses his size and strength to battle for position and draws another foul. On defense, they brought really aggressive ball pressure, which Minnesota's bench unit really struggled with. They were able to force multiple turnovers, leading to advantages going down the floor, and this lob to Porter marked an 11-0 run. Here's another one that starts with some pace. Reid gets cross-matched onto Reggie Jackson, who uses his speed to blow right by the big man in space on his way to a layup, and Reggie's contribution off the bench was huge. This time it's the 2-man game with Jokic, where he threatens a drive before stepping back for a long-range jumper. Next time down, instead of Jackson, it's going to be Porter who receives a handoff, and with Gobert on the bench, there just isn't nearly as much resistance at the rim. That one gave Denver the lead, but they weren't done yet. Now it's KCP who runs the 2-man game. Cat drops back so Jokic pops, and he's left with some space to pour in 3 of his own. After going down 18-4, they went on a 21-3 run to steal all of the momentum, and after a bucket from Alexander Walker, the first quarter has come to a close with the Nuggets holding a 2-point lead. As for the non-Jokic minutes, another thing I said before the series was that I was really worried about how their offense would hold up against the Wolves' defense, and they pretty clearly struggled. However, their own defense more than made up for it, completely stalling Minnesota's scoring and continuing to force turnovers, so when Joker checked back in, that lead had actually been pushed up to 4. At first they gave Gobert the assignment, and on this one Jokic cuts backdoor into an open lane, where he just so happens to run into another 7-footer. Against Rudy, they continued to let him play one-on-one in the post, backing his way in for one of those short mid-range jumpers, and about a minute later they switched it to Cat. What I want you to focus on is how he defends the pick and roll. He doesn't care about Reggie Jackson in the slightest, knowing that even if he finds a lane to drive, it leads straight to Gobert under the basket. And the same goes for those Jokic post-ups. Here it's Naz Reid who tries to defend, and Joker easily gets deep in the paint, but he can't turn over his left shoulder because Rudy's there waiting. The result? A really tough shot. Even when he's cross-matched with Ant and appears to have an easy post-up, here comes Rudy from up top to take away a layup, then when it gets moved to a cutter, well, he takes that away too. During these minutes, the Nuggets had both Christian Braun and Peyton Watson on the floor, two weaker outside shooters, so Gobert was able to just play free safety at all times. On the other end, Ant continued to make things happen. Against a smaller Jackson, he uses his strength to create space for a mid-range jumper, and that mid-range scoring was huge for him all night. In the pick and roll, Jokic decides to sit back in a deep drop, leaving him with room to step into another jumper. Then as soon as Jokic comes up to the level, he makes the right read on a bounce pass to Gobert, who also makes the right read to kick it back out to Towns for a top-of-the-key triple. The big problem in quarter number 2 though was the fact that outside of Ant and Cat, they had zero offensive production. The other guys shot a combined 0 of 4 from 3 and 1 of 8 from the field. Whenever Naz Reid tried to drive, he couldn't get anywhere near the rim against that aggressive help, so in those 12 minutes they only scored 17 points, which actually would have been enough to win the quarter because of that defense if it weren't for how strong the Nuggets closed. First, it was this beautiful skip pass to a wide open KCP in the corner for 3, then in transition, Jokic is going to take it down the middle of the floor on a drive, where he slowly steps his way into that patented floater, and because the floater is such a threat, when they set up pick and roll, Gobert steps up to close that space, to which he instead turns it into a lob to the cutting Gordon. Then on the final play of the half, they set it up again. Jamal does a good job of pressuring the defense, so Jokic once again has space to get to his floater. After winning both quarters by 2, Denver enters the half with a 4-point lead. Coming out of halftime, the Wolves made a very clear adjustment to their offense, using Cat's skill set to punish mismatches. When Jamal stands in front of him on the perimeter, he can shoot over the top like he's not even there, or he can use his strength advantage by putting it down on a drive where he just bulldozes his way into a floater. It's the exact same thing against KCP, driving right and using his left shoulder to go right through his chest, getting to the rim so easily you'd think it's a layup line. It wasn't just Cat who got going though. In general, the third was a nice change in tempo from quarters 1 and 2. While the first 24 minutes were defined by stringing together stops and grinding out a few possessions here and there to get points on the board, these next 12 might as well have been a shootout with the way both offenses were performing. Mike Conley especially had some big moments, attacking Jokic in the pick and roll with his use of off-the-dribble threes, and after that scoreless first half, Jamal started to heat up a little bit as well, most notably with this absolutely ridiculous finish over Gobert. Ultimately though, it would come down to how well the Wolves closed. Denver really struggled to get the ball to Jokic because while Reid is battling for position, you also have that other guy with the 7'10" wingspan playing the lanes. And on the other side, I bet you can guess who started to take over offensively. All of the same things as earlier were still working. You've got a middle of the floor isolation where he throws that bump before turning into a jumper. Then when he gets the Reggie Jackson matchup, he instead plays out of the post in an open corner, easily working his way baseline for 2 points at the rim. When Gobert checked out, things became a lot easier for Jokic because now he's able to isolate out of the post without that extra help. So instead of a tough look over the top, it's some beautiful footwork into a little flip shot. Still, the Wolves won this quarter by 6, so by the time that third buzzer rolls around, they've actually taken the lead. Now it's time for the non-Jokic minutes, and unlike last time, they found some offensive juice. Instead of relying on outside shooting, they started to force the issue going downhill, and as I mentioned, that's a lot easier to do with Gobert on the bench. There's also the fact that Jamal was now in a different mode with his shot making. When Cat switches onto him in the high pick and roll, he slowly backs his way out to the perimeter, finding some space for 3 points, and a chance at 4 with the foul call. The key to these bench minutes, though, has always been the defense, which is unliked by the versatility of Aaron Gordon, on the very first play completely stonewalling Cat in the post. That's all good and well, only the Wolves have 2 centers on the floor. So if Cat can't take advantage of Gordon, you best believe Naz Reid can make easy work of Justin Holiday. The 6th man of the year was in attack mode during these minutes. This time it's a fake dribble handoff to get the Murray switch, then he takes advantage of the mismatch with a big body drive and finish. And when Ant checks back in, he does the same on a physical drive. The defense collapses, so he kicks it back out to Naz, who fakes the 3 and puts it down himself for another kick out to Conley. That's just beautiful offense. It all starts with Ant's ability to get into the defense time and time again. Here, he patiently navigates the pick and roll and finds a lane that takes him all the way to the rim, and even when there really isn't a lane to attack because of the aggressive help, he can fall back on some of that impressive mid-range shot making. Or if the defense is too aggressive, like KCP loading up at the nail, he can threaten a drive before moving it to the wing, which leaves Naz with a great look from 3. These next few minutes were all about Naz. When Ant tries a pull-up 3 in transition, here he comes flying in for a big-time putback dunk, and this next one starts with Ant drawing 2 in the high pick and roll, making the right skip pass to Naz in the corner, which creates a long closeout for him to attack on his way to 2 points plus a foul. Next time down, it's going to be Conley who runs pick and roll, and he too draws nail help before leaving it to Naz on the wing, who puts up a 3 to score 10 straight points for the Wolves. The Nuggets weren't just rolling over though, and this is about the time where that 2-man game starts to take over. You still have Gobert roaming down low to shut off the rim, but now when they leave Christian Braun open, he finally makes them pay. About 2 minutes later, they set it up again. Naz makes no effort to play the ball, funneling Jamal into Rudy, and he steps into a floater. So next time the 2-man game is run, Naz is going to prioritize the ball with a hedge, letting Jokic catch it in the short roll, and here's that 2-on-1 situation that is seemingly impossible to stop. Gobert isn't a normal defender though, and breaks up a lob to Gordon. Their defense of the 2-man game was just perfect during these closing minutes. Cat and McDaniels don't let Jamal get any breathing room from the mid-range, and they're still able to recover to not leave Jokic alone up top as he tries a 3 and misses badly. If shutting down the 2-man game wasn't reason enough to believe that the Wolves were going to walk away with a win, how about a 15-foot floater from Gobert off the glass? Or maybe Anthony Edwards pulling out his inner Michael Jordan with a post fadeaway over the right shoulder. That one put them up 11 with just a minute and a half left to go, and Joker did his best to force the issue, cutting into the deficit a bit, but ultimately it was too little too late. Minnesota ended up taking this one by 7, stealing home court advantage for the rest of the series. Of course, leading the way was Ant, who had a calm 43 points on 68% true shooting. You know, nothing too crazy, and helping him offensively were guys like Cat, Conley, and Reid, who all had incredibly efficient games. I think the key though was how they stalled Denver's offense. Rarely ever do you see Jokic shoot poorly, and not only was he 11 of 25 from the field, he also had 7 turnovers, and that had a direct impact on the team, an offensive rating of just 108.8. It'll be interesting to see how the Nuggets attempt to counter those 3 bigs just taking away everything in the paint, and whether or not they can bounce back with a much needed Game 2 win. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought of this game. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.